slideshow.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get everything, because I have it all in Excel right now. And then just need to go through and there's some things I actually edited out. But everything that's in there has a space.
I mean, look at this.
Somewhere in June.
Your next slide will be right here. Alrighty. We're good. I am awesome. Okay. Good. Thank you. Anything you should need from me? Go back there and have a seat.
No, that's not a problem. It's better than me trying to spend 2 or 4 days to figure it out. So I will get everything over to you. I'll just submit it through email. Okay. Cool. Well, give me a day or so to get all that together and I'll send it over. Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't want to make too many changes. I started putting in some pictures. But I didn't want to change too many things.
Okay, so I'm sending a feedback form around along with the sign-up sheet. If you could just fill out the sign-up sheet and take one of the feedback forms. At the end of the presentation, your feedback would be invaluable, so I'd really appreciate it if you just take a moment just to let me know what you think. And we're a little early, so give us about 4 more minutes and we will get started.
Thank you very much.
Are you cold?
Oh no, it's nice.
It is cold here.
You think it's cold too?
Yeah.
Man, I'm loving it.
Yeah, I tell all my out-of-towners, come here to the valley and say, hey, it may be 115 degrees. Just bring a jacket.
Just bring it.
Because
yeah, because when you go inside,
you go inside, it's
I'm gonna go
they're gonna have
out.
that air conditioner full blast.
I don't have my jacket.
I don't either.
Sorry. You know what? That's not my pen, so we're in trouble. Let's see.
Well, you know what? I'm just gonna steal one.
Hey, that's a perfect idea.
And I'll put it on the
Thank you.
I did too.
Thank you, though.
I did a class years ago. That was really good.
Hey, does anybody in here drive the Nissan Frontier with the sub-warfare stuff on it?
Actually, I have an insurance.
Yes, if you could, I would really appreciate any feedback. I mean, to me, it's going to be perfect, but I can always find room for improvement. So,
Sorry, that's
okay.
Good thing to turn that off.
Oh my God.
make sure everybody signs in. Kelly will be screaming if everybody doesn't sign in.
I have not.
She's not here to yell at us.
Oh, sign didn't work, like, was there a sign-in sheet somewhere?
Yeah, it's coming around.
Oh, it's still up.
Now, how many
Oh, I
of you, I'm sorry, go ahead. How many of you are familiar with the phrase known as CPT? You ever heard of colored people time? You never heard of that? Okay, so there's a saying in the black community, well, be there at 8 o'clock doesn't mean leave home at 8 o'clock. I don't have that dysfunction, I don't have that disease, I don't suffer from CPT, so we are going to get started. And the first thing I want to ask you all is, do you have a recipe or do you have a formula for victory? And if you don't have a formula for victory, I would strongly recommend that you adopt one. Because if it's the right formula for you, and if it works out well for you, it can definitely change your life. Now, my formula for victory is simply occupying time and space in the most efficient and effective way possible. This comes from my martial art background, where back in the day, occupying space and time was in regards to an opponent, someone that I was on the floor with, someone that I was training with. And back then, it was occupying time and space in regards to a physical opponent, like I'm saying. So it doesn't matter if it was karate or judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, whatever I'm training in, as long as I'm occupying time and space in the most efficient and effective way possible, that's going to lead me to a victory. Now, to use my formula, really only have to do one thing, and that's to make a distinction between reacting and responding. I tell all my students, when you react, you allow your opposition to occupy additional time and space. When you respond, you take that time and space away from your opponent. You fill that time and space with actions conducive to your goals. In a training environment for martial arts, what's the goal? Not to lose. Now, as with all things martial arts, it's a lot easier to show you than to tell you. So for that, I'm going to need a volunteer. And guess who I'm looking at? You! You! Come on up here for a second if you don't mind. So what we're going to do is we are going to react and respond just to show the difference. And this is going to be a big part of what we're going to learn today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to face you and I'm going to pull out my handy dandy training book. It's not sharp. It's hard, but it's not sharp. And we're going to stand here, we're going to face each other. And without moving your feet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing this blade from the outside in, and I want you to react. Now, my target is going to be, say, about right there on your neck. And I want you to stop this blade from reaching your neck. Ready? Without moving your feet. Ready? Good. Now, this time, use that arm again, but don't grab my arm. Okay. Good reaction? It stopped the blade from getting to where it wanted to go, right?
Right.
Now, we say this, when we said reacting allows your opponent to occupy additional time and space. This is his reaction. Now watch what happens when me as his opponent, I go to occupy additional time and space. Now, what we need to do is have him respond to take that time and space away. So let's try it one more time. React. Now I occupy time and space. It's mine. Now, what we want to do is we want to respond. We want him to be able to control that time and space. So this time, what I want you to do, take this hand, do it like this. Just bring it over here, and just meet the blade. Okay. Just meet the blade. Okay. Good. That response work? Now let's see what happens when I try to occupy additional time and space. Go do what comes natural. When you feel me go down here, do what comes naturally. It would be just push it away. Just push it away. So here, he responds. I go to occupy additional time and space. He takes that time and space away. Awesome. Now, last thing, we want to fill that time and space with actions conducive to his goal or intent. On the defensive side, what is his goal? What is his intent? He needs to survive this. He needs to not lose. So, let's go one more time. Respond. Take that time and space away. Feel that time with a hammer fist? There. Last time. There. Good. That's the difference between reacting and responding. Thank you.
Awesome.
Now, I show you that because over the course of the training today, it's really going to be about making that distinction between when you are going to react to something and when you're going to respond to something. Now let's take this and put it into our everyday life. How many of us driving home react all the time to the bad drivers around us? Always, right? And it's one of the weirdest things to me because when I'm riding with people and I say to them, why are you reacting this way? We live in a state where everyone and their mother carries a gun in their car. And you don't know what the person in that car that you're giving the finger to, you're challenging to a fight, you have no idea what kind of day they're having. So the whole point of that exercise was to get us into mind to start thinking about responding instead of reacting. Now, I want to welcome you all. Thank you for being here. My name is Orthro. Now, if you're a fan of football, or even if you are not, when you have the ball or are on offense, you can do primarily one of three things. You can punt, run, or throw. That's just a fun way to help you remember my name because over the course of the presentation, I definitely want you to feel comfortable saying, yeah, but Orthro this. Oh, but Orthro this. Feel free to use my name. Now, I am the founder, chief instructor, and safety resource strategist for Speak Synergism. Easiest way to help you understand why we exist is simply share our mission statement. Speak Synergism is dedicated to teaching people how to respond like martial art experts, even and especially if they're not martial artists. We do this primarily because of our commitment to creating, promoting, and maintaining safe communities. Communities in which we live or go to for fun and relaxation. Communities where we work, educate ourselves, and, in my opinion, one of the most important communities of all, where we send our children to learn. Now, what is responding like a martial art expert, even and especially if you're not a martial artist? It's pretty simple. Number one, always have a plan. Always have a creative plan. Number two, always analyze. Always evaluate and always respond or act with purpose. Now, I've been a martial arts student and instructor for 2 decades. My biggest goal as an instructor is every student, every learner becomes an expert in observational awareness. I do this because the 2 biggest takeaways from my years of training and experience are these. Number one, we never want to be in a situation where we are forced to respond to someone's hostile or violent intent. And number two, the very same principles that we use in martial arts training for overcoming physical obstacles or challenges, they can be used for overcoming the non-physical obstacles and challenges that we face in everyday life. I absolutely love being a martial arts instructor. I feel like I was born to do it. It keeps me on my toes both mentally and physically. For years it's helped pay the bills, but the part that I enjoy the most is the opportunity that it provides me to do things like this, to give back to my community. Now, why are we here today? Well, primarily 3 things we want to do today. Number one, we want to understand or develop a better understanding of what we should always be looking for in regards to our safety. Once we understand what we're looking for, we want to talk about how to appropriately respond. And the last thing we're going to do is go through some of the basics of just plain old physical self-protection. Now, we are going to be here, or we are scheduled to be here for 2 hours. I can guarantee this time is going to fly by. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, I'm going to keep you engaged, and I'm going to challenge you. Now, at the moments that you feel that you're being challenged, don't take it personally. Don't know any of you, well, you take it personally. I don't know any of you personally, so I don't want you feeling like you're being put on the spot. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, and I don't want you to feel like you're being judged. But for us to get the most of this time together means that I'm going to have to be objective and brutally honest. We will take a 5-minute break every 30 minutes or so. If you feel the need to get up, stretch your legs, or you need to use the restroom before then, please feel free to do so. Now, normally this is a part where I explain to you how to get to the restrooms, but I have no clue how to get there from here. So hopefully everyone knows how to get to the restrooms. Okay, awesome.
Down the hall.
Down the hall, perfect.
Out the doors. 222 for girls. What is it?
444 for guys. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get started. And I wanted to first start with thanking the person that made it possible for all of us to be here, Kelly Harris, but she's not here. I had all these wonderful things that I wanted to say about her that I wanted her to hear. Well, you tell her that I said it has been a pleasure meeting her. I've enjoyed the opportunity to put this together, and I really think that my home group is lucky to have her because to me, her dedication to excellence is absolutely inspiring. Okay, so how do these things usually start? They usually start with an icebreaker. I'm going to do the same thing, kind of. Now, the icebreaker that we're going to do, because it's important for me to give you things that you can use immediately, we are going to learn an exercise. It's the same exercise that I use when I start all of my martial art trainings. It's a very short exercise, but it's a powerful exercise. So, and it's a concentration and relaxation exercise. So I'm going to show it to you, then I'll explain it to you, and then we'll go through the breathing, and then we'll all try it a time or two. So, here's the exercise. Very short. So, basically, we're going to start here, both feet together. Both feet are so close together, we shouldn't even be able to slide a piece of paper in between. We're going to bend our knees slightly, make sure our back is straight. This is the blade of your hand. This is a blade, this is a blade. We have two blades. We're going to connect our blades here. And this is the new day. After the new day, we have the rising of the sun. Then we have our morning meditation. Then we have our morning meal. Then we embrace the day. Pretty simple, right? Okay. Now, with the breathing, I'm going to breathe in. Wow. It's a very powerful exercise. Once you're able to incorporate your body movement and your breathing, it'll take you places if you let it. So, if you are willing and able, let's stand up and try it a couple times. So, start with both feet so close together, you should not even be able to slide a piece of paper in between. Knees slightly bent, back straight. Connect your blades here. Now, you may have restrictions on your clothes, so you might not be able to go all the way up. Just go up as high as you can. So from here, we're going to start with the new day. Rising of the sun. Morning meditation. Morning meditation down. Left hand on bottom. Morning meal. And embrace the day. Again. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And out to embrace the day. Doesn't that feel awesome? It really does. Okay, now, do that exercise. Go ahead, have a seat. Whenever you feel you need to clear your mind, so if you get home from work in the evening and you stop like I used to and listen to the garage door before I go in to hear the level of excitement, if it's too much excitement for you, stop and do that exercise. You get to work in the morning and you understand that someone's looking for you and you don't know why, but especially if you do know why, take a moment, do that exercise. Do that exercise. It'll certainly help. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing that I'm going to start with is a statement. And some people find this statement very controversial. And that is, by nature, humans are primarily reactive creatures. Now, when I say reactive, just to make sure we're on the same page, just go ahead and define it. Reactive is responding to a situation after it's occurred rather than creating or controlling it. Now, because we understand what reactive is, it's just going to make sense to understand the opposite, which is proactive. Proactive is creating or controlling a situation by causing something to happen rather than responding after it happens. First question, is it possible to create and control every situation that you find yourself in? Not going to be possible. Now, I don't want to create the impression that somehow proactive is always more beneficial and useful than reactive, because they both have value, they both have benefit, They both have a time and place. Now, with all that being said, which is going to be more conducive to creating and maintaining your safety? Proactive. Now, assume what I say is true, and by nature, people are primarily reactive. Why? Why are people primarily reactive in your experience? Anyone?
Fear.
Fear?
No plan. They didn't plan. No plan.
No plans. What about just being plain lazy?
Situational awareness.
Lack of situational awareness. Awesome. Now, primarily, people are reactive, or reactive simply because, like most everything else in the universe, when given the chance, humans are going to take the path of least resistance. Why? Why do we choose the path of least resistance? It's easy. Now, does less work or easy, does that mean less effort? Does less effort equal less work? Not necessarily. So, it does not equal less work. Now, does the path of least resistance guarantee a desired outcome? It doesn't. What does it do? It just presents the opportunity for exerting less effort. Now, when we exert less effort and the desired outcome is not achieved, what has to happen? Additional effort must be exerted to either achieve that desired outcome or to prevent an undesirable result. Is this always the case? No. Sometimes the path of least resistance will get us to where we want to be. But is it a gamble? Yeah, sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. But for us, it's the idea or prospect of winning while exerting less effort. Isn't that why we do it? Isn't that what makes it worth it? This may be acceptable in a lot of areas in your life, but is it going to be acceptable when it comes to creating and maintaining your safety? Path of least resistance? No, it's not. It's not acceptable. Now, if I was to stop this presentation right now, and you walked away with just this understanding, you'd be light years ahead of most people. Creating and maintaining your safety is a full-time, proactive affair. For some people, this is going to mean making slight adjustments in their activities of daily living. For others, it's more like a lifestyle change. Only you know where you are compared to where you want to be, but you have to ask yourself these three questions. Number one, am I proactive in regards to my safety? Next question you want to ask yourself, if you are not proactive, you want to find out, am I where I need to be in regards to my safety? And if you can't answer that question with a definitive yes, the last question for you should be, what do I have to do to get there? Now, because of our reactive nature, far too many people buy into an idea or a concept that is essentially a myth. And this myth has to do with how they perceive they are going to respond in a time of crisis. Tell me if this sounds familiar. There is no doubt that I believe that I work best under pressure. I know that when the situation comes that I will automatically, magically be able to rise to the occasion. Why is rising to the occasion a myth?
When the occasion hasn't come, how do you practice for it?
That's a good point. Why else is rising to the occasion a myth? In times of crisis, people do not rise. What do?
They get scared.
They fall. People fall to the level of their training. They fall to the level of their preparedness. There is no such thing as rising. We all do the same thing. We fall back on what we've been trained in or what we've been prepared for. When it comes to your safety and the path of least resistance, whenever those two are in the same consideration, do not walk away from that path. You absolutely run from it. Any questions on that? Awesome. Now, how many of you have or give any serious thought to the relationship between predator and prey and the impact on human behavior? One person, okay, good. Well, I'm going to tell you, most people don't. Most people don't. And normally when we hear the words predator and prey, what's the first thing that comes to mind? TV shows and animals, right? Some rainforest or jungle and wild animals are locked in a struggle for survival. The relationship between predator and prey is one of the purest truths and unfortunately harshest realities of human existence. I mean, daily, Aren't we bombarded by images and news and things that we learn about that absolutely boggle our mind when we understand what some humans are capable of doing to other humans? Isn't the relationship between predator and prey what brings us here today? Absolutely. Now, we're not here today because we want to try to figure out why people do what they do. There are primarily two reasons for us to be here today in regards to predator and prey. Number one, we want to create a better understanding of situations that may lead to being preyed upon, but we also want to recognize and classify behaviors of both predator and prey to make it a little bit easier. Now, it's obvious why it is important to be familiar with the characteristics of predators. Why is it just as important, if not more important, to be familiar with characteristics of prey as well? Think about that for a second. And we're going to come back to it when we come to awareness. Why is it just as important to be aware, of behaviors and characteristics of prey in addition to predators?
So you know how you're perceiving, people are perceiving you.
Thank you. You need to understand how people are seeing you, because everything that you do, everything that you don't do, is communicating information about you. Now, it can be difficult, if not impossible, simply to look at someone and tell where they fall on the spectrum between predator and prey. It's going to be a lot easier to make a determination based on not how they appear, but how they behave. Thank you. By they behave. How they walk, how they talk, how they sit, how they stand, how they choose to take up the space around them. Now, predator has two commonly accepted definitions. An animal that naturally preys on others, or a person or group that harms or ruthlessly exploits others. Outside of select circles, I don't know very many people who are comfortable being thought of as predators, but at the same time, no one wants to be known as prey. Now, prey is an animal that is hunted and killed by another for food, or a person or thing easily injured or taken advantage of. Now, we have the definitions of both. I want you to stop for a moment and just reflect to yourself, which one of those most reflect you, predator or prey? Keep it to yourself. Now, if you had to choose one for yourself, which would you choose?
Prey.
You would choose prey? Okay. Okay. There are valid reasons for doing it. I'm sure she has a very valid reason. May I ask what that reason would be?
Because I don't want to be a predator.
Okay. 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 Well, how about this? Tell me how you feel about this. Everyone in this room has a capability of being a predator. And at the same time, everyone in this room is also a possible prey. Do you see how that works? Everyone see how that works? We're both all the time. Now, sorry?
So at any given moment.
At any given moment, we're both. And there are primarily two reasons for this. Earlier, we agreed that it's going to be impossible to create and control every situation we find ourselves in. Most often, the relationship between predator and prey is dynamic. Dynamic implies what? Flux, change. Who is considered predator and who is considered prey can change based on circumstance and situation. So, for this reason, it is not always helpful to simply want to be able to look at someone and classify them based on appearance, but we are going to classify them based on their behaviors, their characteristics. We're going to focus on two behaviors for this. For predators, we are going to focus on dominant characteristics or behaviors. Now, if the dominant are for the predators, what are the characteristics or behaviors for prey? They are, say that again, passive or submissive. Make sense? Now, let's do this. How many people do we have? This should be very short. We can do it all together. Let's come up with 5 things that we come to mind when we think of dominant behavior, and let's come up with 5 things that come to mind when we think of passive behavior. So we're looking for making that distinction where someone may be on the predator side or the prey side. So the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of dominant behavior, what would it be?
Untrusting.
Dominant behavior is untrusting?
Loud.
Loud. Why loud?
It's just usually someone's trying to put somebody over on something, they're usually yelling.
Gotcha. I like the one for loud. Anything else for dominant?
Aggressive.
I'm sorry, one at a time. I'm sorry?
contact?
Eye
Someone
contact.
in the eye.
Okay, so is it a prolonged eye contact or is it just a glancing eye contact?
Well, probably prolonged.
Prolonged eye contact. Okay. Anything else?
Body language.
Body language. Okay, so what kind of body? Show me dominant body language. That's dominant body language. Okay.
Something like that.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay. What about two more for dominance?
I think they take up your personal space.
Ooh, I love that answer. Yes, that's
In the
great.
bubble.
Perfect. I love it. Yes, taking up space. One more.
Aggressive.
Aggressive. Okay, so show me what aggressive is through body language.
Like getting
Just
in.
leaning in.
Yeah, like
Way
that.
directing.
Or sometimes like just.
Getting up close.
No, I
I
understand what
mean,
you're
it could
saying.
be like sometimes like how people like can bump you or run into you.
Okay.
You just feel their energy.
Yeah, it's like weird.
Okay.
They touched your boundary.
Perfect. And we're going to definitely come back to that. That's absolutely awesome. The thing to remember with people who are expressing dominant characteristics of behaviors is this. They seek to take up as much space around them. To them, being dominant is taking ownership of the space and everything in that space around them. So we've all seen the pictures of the guys on the subways and the buses, and they're sitting like this, right? This is nothing but dominance. Or someone comes in your office and they sit down and they give you one of these, or they give you one of these. These are all dominant characteristics or behaviors. And these are the things that you want to be aware of. Now, let's talk about submissive behaviors or characteristics. What do we think of when we think of submissive? So basically, submissive, we're going to think of all the opposite things for dominant, right?
Stay back.
Slumping shoulders.
Slumping shoulders, poor posture, not very loud, not wanting to take up too much space, always wanting to be accommodating. Always. So a dominant person is going to sit like, a dominant person is going to sit like this. A submissive person is going to sit like this, right? These are the things that you want to be aware of. Now, all of the things that you said are important because these are the things that you associate with dominant and submissive behaviors. And because you associate these things with those characteristics, what they do is they provide you with a point of reference. These are the things that you are going to attempt to be aware of. These are the things that you are going to look for. Now, is it possible that we were able to get every characteristic or every behavior? No, not even close. Just remember these three things if you're in doubt. Number one, when you're going to hear this a million times, and you've probably already heard it a million times, always go with what? Always go with your instincts or your gut. Always. Number two, always forego the path of least resistance. And the last one, just err on the side of caution. Any questions on predator and prey?
Well, it seems like there's so many characteristics in the middle
There are.
that don't really, the ones we've talked about seem to be the extremes.
They are extremes, but you need a point of reference. And when we get into awareness, we're going to tie all this together. So we're going to look at all those different things that you're saying, and we're going to work on figuring out how to interpret that information, what it means, and how you should respond. So we are 2 minutes away from our first break. Why don't we go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and then we'll jump into observational awareness.
What was the third thing you said?
Err on the side of caution.
Are you going to be able to relate these examples to open houses, for instance?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And a big part of that is going to be, this is not about me telling you what I think you should know. It's about me listening to you, understanding what your needs are, and addressing those needs. So you just let me know. Forgot to introduce you, Bob. I'll get you good. did you have any specific questions in regards to those?
Well, I've had two situations in the past, and
Mhm.
I posted on Facebook about one of them.
Okay.
Like, I think everybody probably on the Facebook forum read it, but I had these two guys come to an open house. They thought they were gonna lease the house,
Mhm.
and it wasn't for lease, it was a Zillow owned home. And they both had big, huge knives with them, and he just came in and just took over, and what I did was I just walked around and went right outside. I wasn't even gonna engage with them, it just scared the crap out of me. And I went, and another agent who'd just been in with her clients, she was out in her car, and she actually was packing, she had her gun with her.
Mhm.
And so she said, well, just wait till they leave, and then we'll go back in the house and we'll lock it up. So they left, and we went back in the house, and I was like, I'm done, I'm not here anymore. So we started packing up, and they pounded on the door.
Mhm.
And she looked out, she goes, it's them again. I'm like, well, and I don't think they had any intention to hurt us, but they were mad because they thought they were leasing this house. It was for sale, they weren't gonna get what they wanted, and we could have just been collateral damage or casualties. They could have gotten mad and just, I don't think they had any intention to hurt us, but
They were victims of a scam.
it was exactly what it was, but I wasn't gonna sit there and tell them that. I wasn't gonna argue with them about it. I just wanted to get the hell out of there and let them do whatever they wanted.
No, you're right.
So that's what we did. We just left. Went back there and locked it up. The second situation I had, actually, I stopped doing open houses for a while. I thought, okay, I'll do them again. I'm ready. It's basically the same neighborhood. Started setting up my signs. That car started to follow me.
Okay.
And they pulled over. It was these two really kind of, scary looking guys, and they're like, hey, do you need any help with that? And I said, oh, I don't need any help. I'm good. And they're like, are you sure? Here we go again. So I just drove off. I went and sat in a neighborhood for a while, waited till they were gone, went back and picked up my signs and said, this is my open house.
Now, what kind of communication do you have with people in the neighborhood where you're showing your open houses?
So occasionally I'll knock on doors. Well, now I lock the door. I always sit there, I lock the door, I sit in the window. I don't even let them in if they look scary. I mean, I seriously don't. And I'll go stand outside. But I usually talk to the neighbors beforehand, let them know when there's going to be an open house. A lot of times I'll put flyers on their door.
Okay.
But they're not necessarily going to be home. I mean, my thing is, I unlock all the back doors, the garage doors, so if I have to go somewhere, I can go in the backyard and scream my guts out, right? So you actually have some way to escape, so you're not fumbling the door on the way out if somebody's after you. I don't go upstairs with them, I don't go downstairs with them. I try to stay between them and the door, and all these things that you think about, but I just think two situations like that in less than a year really kind of scared me.
And with good reason. And we're I'm definitely going to address that for you. And if I'm not addressing it completely, you let me know, and we can definitely zero that in for you. But I do have an idea, and we will talk about that. Okay, so everyone's back. Awesome. Awareness is knowledge or perception of the situation or fact. So the first question I want to ask in regards to awareness, this is always a fun one, is how far does your awareness extend? Not everyone at once.
Mine's bad. That's why probably why I said pray. And like in those situations, I try to just talk myself out of like, oh, you're being paranoid, whatever. And I've noticed recently too, like I've put myself in situations where like I shouldn't be right here with this guy, or like what am I doing?
It's always when you're in work mode. I'm in work mode. I'm putting myself into a situation because I'm just not paying attention.
I just don't. My mind doesn't think that way. Like I'm a trusting person.
Okay, we are going to get to trusting people in just a moment. We're going to talk about people because you have to. I mean, you're a nice person. You're in this because you want to help people. We're definitely going to talk about this. So really fast, any answers on how far your awareness extends? Well, think about this.
Your vision and what you've seen.
Say that again?
Your vision and what you've seen until
Okay, your vision and what you've seen. Think about it. Okay, knowledge or perception of a situation or fact. How is it that we have knowledge of or perceive the world around us?
Through your senses.
Your senses. Your awareness is going to extend as far as your 5, some people would say 6 senses allow. Now, seeing people. Always think of awareness as primarily a visual exercise. What about for the people who can't see? Are they aware? They're very aware. True or complete awareness means incorporating all of your senses to use them simultaneously to have knowledge of or perceive the world around you. try it, practice it. Things that you can do, and I do this all the time. Can you tell a person by their footsteps? Can you listen to tell the gait or the rhythm in the footsteps to tell who's coming?
With you,
Yeah.
like around your house. Like
Around your house, sometimes around the office. Can you tell who's in the office by the smell of the perfume or the cologne? All of these things is what we should be doing. We should be incorporating all of our senses all the time to, like I said, have knowledge of or perceive the world around you. Now, why? Oh, let me tell you this. Awareness is a step in the process to get you the information that you are going to need to form a judgment. Your judgment is going to be the basis of your response. Why is it important to be as objectively aware as possible?
You don't want to judge people, aren't.
Okay.
You can make an informed decision.
Say that one more time.
You can make an informed decision.
Thank you. You need all the information that you can to make an informed decision. If you are not objectively aware, one of two things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to miss something. Or you're going to add something that does not belong. Like she says, inaccurate information. Can inaccurate information have an impact on your judgment? Sure. Can this have an effect on your safety? Certainly. Now, this is the part I want to get to. What limits our ability to be objectively aware? Think about it. Anything that would limit you, and you said it, I don't know if you know you said it, but what limits our ability to be objectively aware? Anything.
Caring what other people think.
Caring what other people think. What else? So caring what other people think, would that be projecting?
Staring at this thing.
Okay, staring at that thing. Okay, distractions. Okay, well let's talk about things like alcohol. Obviously, drugs. How do those prevent you from being objectively aware?
Change your perceptions of your situation or reality.
Perceptions of reality will get changed. Anything else besides alcohol and drugs? Or being distracted?
Environmental stresses, rest,
Thank you.
all of those things.
Stress. How does stress impact your ability to be objectively aware? Can't concentrate, you're not focused, you're not hearing everything, you're not seeing everything, you're not paying attention. Quick to temper. That's another one. We have stress, quick to temper. Anything else can limit your ability to be objectively aware?
Well, it's distraction probably.
Distractions. Okay. Okay, so distractions are obviously going to pull our mind away from where it should be. What about, you said something, projecting. Is that what you said? No, you didn't say projecting. What did you say?
I say about putting myself in situations and trusting.
You're trusting. That is projecting, right? You're assuming that because you're a nice person, the person that is across from you is a nice person as well. That gets you in trouble. What about, one more, especially in your field, what is it? What about wishful thinking? Especially if you feel like there may be an opportunity to go ahead and close this deal or go ahead and get
Perceived outcome.
perceived outcome. All of these things can limit your ability to be aware, and all of these things can have an impact on your safety. Now, can you be aware of everything? Can you?
Not all at once.
No. Do you need to be aware of everything?
I think my spouse feels like
Yeah, some people have that. Some people do that. Now, one of the things that I want you to understand, and it's going to tie in real fast, and then I'll come back to what I just asked you. When it comes to your awareness or people's objective awareness, you have to understand something. And I want to say talk is cheap, simply because 7% of what we convey is conveyed through words. Not a lot. 38% is conveyed through vocal tone, and 55% through facial expression and posture. Because the majority of what we communicate is done so non-verbally, it's imperative that we have an understanding of what our non-verbal communication is saying to the world. Now, can you, I just asked you, can you be aware of everything? The answer was no. Do you need to be aware of everything? No. So if we can't be aware of everything and we don't need to be, what is it that we should always attempt to be aware of? What are we looking for? Signs. What kind of signs? What are we looking for? One more time?
Red flags.
Red flags. Perfect. We're looking for things that either, we're looking for anomalies. We're looking for things that happen but should not. Things that should happen but don't. Or we're looking for people who appear to be stressed when there is or should be no apparent reason. These things are called anomalies. Anomalies are always going to disrupt, not fit in, or stand out. That's what you're looking for. Things that disrupt, stand out, or don't fit in. Pretty simple, right? So, imagine 100+ day, you're in Arizona, your favorite water park. Just standing there or just there with family, friends, having a great time. Out of the corner of your eye, you see someone walking through the water park and they're fully dressed, all in black. They have on black shoes, black everything. They have a hood on, their hood's up, and they're just not bothering anyone. They're just walking through the water park. Does that person get your attention? Why?
They don't fit in.
They don't fit in, right? Okay, is this an anomaly? How would you classify this anomaly?
Things that happen that should not.
Things that happen but should not. You should not be at the water park dressed all in black on a 100+ day in the middle of July in Arizona. All those things equal anomaly. Now, say you're having lunch at an outdoor cafe and you notice there's a couple across from you and one of them is on their phone or mobile device. You look over and they're getting up to leave and you notice that the device is on the table. And you call out, "Hey, you left your device." And they look back at you and they just turn around and keep walking. Is that an anomaly?
Yes.
How do you classify that anomaly?
That should happen, but don't.
Things that should happen but don't. What should have happened?
Oh, thanks.
They should have came back and got their phone. So, these are pretty easy examples of spotting anomalies. Things that stand out, disrupt, and don't fit in. How do you become aware of an anomaly when it's not as obvious as someone walking through a water park all in black on a 100-degree day? How do you become aware of anomalies? Oh, this is my part to speak. What you want to do is you want to establish and work from a baseline. A baseline is simply a minimum point used for comparison. Now, your points for comparison on the baseline, almost 100% of the time, are going to be your experience. So this is how we form a baseline. You ask yourself, what is normal? What is expected? What is standard? What is routine? What is the usual for this experience? For this place, for this process, procedure, time, event? What is considered normal? And anything that does not fit in what is considered normal for where you are or what you are doing is outside of the baseline, and that is an anomaly. When and where should we be looking for anomalies and establishing baselines? Everywhere. Every place you go, you want to look around to understand what is perceived as normal. And sometimes finding out what the anomaly is just as simple as the water park. Look around, see what everyone else is doing. Whoever's not doing that is outside of the baseline and is therefore an anomaly. Now, any questions on baselines? Okay, so you get a call from someone who says that they are an experienced real estate investor. They've done this 100 times, and they want to talk to you about a property that you're representing. So you set an appointment for 11:30 on Tuesday. 11:30 Tuesday comes, and you're getting ready for your meeting. And say you're getting ready in your office or your window. Your office is by the window. You look out the window and you see the bus stop. You see someone get off the bus and you go, "Oh my gosh, I like that hat." Don't think anything more. You go back to getting ready for the meeting. 11:30 comes. You get a call from the front desk. They say your 11:30's here. You walk out to meet your appointment and you notice it's the same person that you seen get off the bus. Is that an anomaly? You say yes. Okay.
So,
You say that's an anomaly?
yeah.
How would you classify it?
Things that happen that shouldn't.
Things that happen that shouldn't. What happened but shouldn't?
He's riding a bus, but he's an investor looking to.
Experienced investor.
If an experienced investor on the bus, it is an anomaly. What is your point for comparison for this anomaly? Event. Perfect. Experience. All of these things. Perfect. Awesome. You got it. So let's go back to the water park example. What would be the point for comparison for the person walking through a water park all in black? What are our points for comparison to be able to recognize that as an anomaly?
Place.
Place. Day. time, all of these things, place, and like I said, your experience can always be number one. What about the point of comparison at the outdoor cafe? What will be your point for comparison?
Event.
Procedure, event, process, experience. Always can come back to experience. So you guys pretty much got that as far as baselines go, right? Now, one more thing. So let's talk about real fast the last classification for anomalies, and that is people who are stressed or appear to be stressed when there is or should be no apparent reason. What are the signs or symptoms of stress? How do you know you're dealing with someone who is stressed? And we're going to make a list. How do you know you're dealing with someone who's stressed?
They might be like going like this or.
Okay, this is perfect. I like this. What is this? Okay. Nervousness. So we get this. We get
Shifty.
this.
5-year-old
Yeah.
son, he touches his face.
They're shifty.
We get this.
I don't know.
Constantly looking, like not making eye contact.
We get that.
Or just staying quiet, not saying anything.
Extreme or focus or concentration. Yes, all these things are signs of stress. Now, how many of you know? Okay, so can you see my foot? Can you hear my foot? You ever dealing with someone who is standing there and they have to tap? They have to do something. Those people are stressed. And you know that they're stressed because they are exhibiting what we call pacifying behaviors. Stress creates energy. People need an outlet for that energy. It's hard to stand here and have all this stress build up and not have an outlet for it. That's why people are going to tap. That's why people do those repetitive behaviors, those repetitive motions. That's something that you definitely always want to keep an eye out for. So, when does this process begin? Establishing, working from baselines, looking for anomalies. As a real estate professional, when does this process begin for you?
Initial
You
interaction.
wake up.
Yeah. And probably before your initial interaction. How many of you, when you get a lead or you start talking to someone, you go on and look at their social media?
We never stalk our clients.
Well, I wouldn't call it stalking.
Oh.
But if at a very bare minimum, you might want to do some of the things. But if you're not doing those, as soon as you come into contact with someone who is new, when does the process end? It doesn't end until your business together is complete.
Never.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It should never end. Now, how many of you have had that client, that experience that we'll call the dream experience? Didn't have to go perfect, but everything went exactly the way you wanted it to from beginning to end. Is that something that you all can say you've experienced? Everyone? Okay.
Probably, otherwise we wouldn't still be here.
Okay, good. What about the nightmare client? The one that just seemed like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to end? And it does end.
A year or so, yeah.
And it usually ends with you just wasting your time, wasting your resources. Everyone can relate to that one as well. Okay. Now I know you can relate to this one. How many of you have been with someone or at somewhere where you felt like there needed to be a concern for your safety? Okay. What these three things are for you are baselines. Going forward, any opportunity that you're in, anyone that you're dealing with these, use these three experiences because they are going to provide you with a wealth of information. These are baselines. Now, you should always at least be working from two baselines. Why? Because you want that baseline from that great experience to make sure that you're still in that place where the experience is going to be great. You want the baseline from the bad experience because if nothing else, you're going to save yourself time and resources. And on the really, really big side, you may keep yourself out of an unsafe situation. Okay, so all the situations we've talked about, whether it be the water park, whether it be the person on the bus, or whether it be the person who left their phone, have any of these people been dangerous? Has there been a reason for concern?
Not towards myself.
Well, okay, so not necessarily. But do we want to find out? Would it be prudent to find out? Just because there are anomalies, they're sticking out? How do we find out? What do we do? What do we need to be able to make a decision? We need more information, don't we? We need more information. Now, observation is the action or process of observing someone or something in order to get information. Now, this is a trick question. What are you observing for?
More anomalies.
Thank you. You are observing for behaviors, actions that are continuing outside of the baseline. That's what we're looking for. Observation is the next step in the process to get us information that we are going to need to form our judgment, and the judgment is the basis of our response. Okay, so we've noticed the anomalies. How many anomalies does it take for us to respond? How many things do we have to see before we say, okay, something has to be done? How many?
2.
2, okay. How many, okay, anyone else have a number?
Technically 1, because if you
10.
find one, you're going to look for others, so that's an action.
Okay, now, remember what anomalies mean. They only mean something doesn't fit in, stands out, disrupts. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong. And I'm going to tell you, there is no hard number as far as how many anomalies that you
Whatever
want to
one
see.
gets your instinct to go.
Thank you. It could be one. The first anomaly could be the one that says, oh my gosh, this is absolutely crazy. I need to do something. Now, this is the tricky part. What are you going to do? In any one of these situations, no matter whether you're by yourself or whether you're a group of people, you're in a home, you're showing someone, or you're out in public, what is your initial response always going to be?
Look for your exit.
Thank you. Initial response is always going to be put as much space between you and that person or situation as possible. That's it. That is your response. So let's talk about building up to a response. So typically, I like to look for 3. At the first anomaly, okay, I start thinking of a response. At anomaly number 2, okay, solidifying response. If it gets around to anomaly 3, I'm already in the process of responding, or I'm already in the process of moving myself out of there. Now, like I said, it's not going to be the same for everyone. Now, one of the things that you as real estate professionals probably need to be more aware of than anyone is how people choose to use the space around you, around them, to communicate. This picture is absolutely disturbing for so many reasons. What is wrong with this picture?
He's in his
Totally,
personal
there's
space.
no bubble.
He is in
They're in the
his
same
clothes. Okay, now, classic dominance, right? This guy cares nothing about that guy. And he's letting him know what? What is he letting him know? I'm the boss, and you will laugh at my stupid jokes, right? Look at his posture. This guy's off balance. He's smiling. Can he really mean that smile? Is that a sincere smile he has on his face?
No.
Or is it just because this guy is in his face? Yes, look at him. Look at his body language. Look at his arms. He's not happy at all. This guy doesn't care at all. People, when it comes to using space to communicate, you want to be aware of 2 things. You want to be aware of distance and movement. Distance is the range at which we interact, right? It's mutually understood in this society that the nature of the relationship is going to determine the range at which we interact. The closer the relationship, the closer the range. As far as movement, all you need to understand is all movement has meaning. People move from point A to point B for a purpose. If you have someone who is repeatedly trying to enter into an inappropriate zone for the relationship, they have a reason for doing so. Point blank, because the nature of your relationship is going to determine the range at which we interact. How many of you how many of you know people who deal with people who have those boundary or border issues?
Oh, come on, we've all had that, friend.
We've all had, but you said friend, so that puts a certain connotation on. If it's a friend, it's different. If it's someone that you don't know, just like you know they shouldn't be in that zone, they know they shouldn't be in that zone. And that could be a test, or that could be them establishing their dominance. What do you do when someone cuts that distance down like that?
Kiss him.
I like
That
it.
backs him right up.
I don't know.
Hey,
Back off.
Whatever works for
I
you.
do it to my kids all the time.
You do it to your children all the time?
Well, because they walk behind me and step on my flip flops. I
That's
can't
my
stand
dog.
it. So I go like this. I go step back. Don't step on my flip flops.
Get out of my
But it's
space.
like kind of a joke in my mind because
Okay.
like a lot of times when you're checking out of the grocery store, you're doing your thing and the person's like right here. I will go like that,
You kick.
or I put my cart in between us.
Either way, it's an action.
Yeah, it's like
It's a, yeah.
You're supposed to step away from them to let them know that they can't do that, that you're not vulnerable to it. If somebody's really seeing if they can cross your boundaries.
Okay,
Do something
you're absolutely correct. You're always going to want to maintain that distance. You're always going to maintain that distance, want to. Now, say if someone steps into that space and you acknowledge that and you step back out of that space, what happens when they take another step forward?
Go step on their toes.
You just keep stepping back.
You keep stepping
You
back.
don't let them back up.
Is there any bigger
That's the right
anomaly
answer that.
than someone entering into a zone that's inappropriate for the relationship? When does that anomaly get in response? Immediately. Immediately. Now, if you step into my zone the first time, okay, great. I'm going to say, okay. Now, I see you cutting that distance down. I'm going to start backing up. When you stop moving forward, I stop moving backwards. You start moving forward again, that's anomaly number 2. I stop moving, you stop moving. If there is an anomaly number 3, I'm already preparing my response. You don't want to let it get to the point where someone can reveal or you think you know what they're going to do before you start contemplating a response. You start contemplating that response at the first anomaly. Now, where are anomalies going to come from for you? Are anomalies only things that we see? No. You're talking to people all the time. Can you be made aware of an anomaly just by talking to someone? Heck yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
If
we
they're,
qualified people on the phone all the time.
thank you. And if what they're saying is not matching up, we start adding up those anomalies. So when we're dealing with this person, we'll say, well, last week I got an anomaly on the phone. Today this is an anomaly. You add those anomalies up. The more anomalies start piling up, the closer you start getting to contemplating your response. Now, we talked about response being number 1 and first and foremost always being what? Creating space. Right? That is what we're going to focus on in the next part of the presentation. And that's going to be the self-defense part of the presentation. But it's not so much self-defense, it's really geared towards helping you to create the space that you're going to need, because we don't plan on doing any of this with people, do we? We're not going to try to get in there and mix it up and show them our martial arts skills. If any skill that we're going to show them, we're going to show them how fast and we can get away from where they are. That's what we're going to be doing. So, why don't we break here for about 5 minutes, and when you come back, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Great space and always try to have
Did everyone get a feedback form?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
oh no, I didn't. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm almost finished. Yay. I said I'm almost finished.
It doesn't. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'll tweak stuff that you're doing great. Not too much on this. Thanks. Just think of me as the whole bag of emails. Shine stuff.
Hey, that'll work.
Happy enough to do that much work,
That's always a good thing.
Mine wasn't as severe. It was like basically here.
On the internet? It says that.
I might have a photo of it because I sent it to a friend. Hold on.
I saw your name on the roster there.
Oh, thank you, sir.
To
Oh! I didn't tell me. Hey, man, so good to see you. It's like you look so much different than your picture on LinkedIn. I had no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I did too. And it was not working well. They make money from saying that, so I don't know.
I used to work with a guy that actually, through customers, he used to get exactly that way.
Really?
He was just like this, yeah. It was called, that's why I said kiss him. We used to call him Kissing Chris.
Oh, wow. How many customers did he get that way?
Oh, he was like that with everyone, even the owner of the company. He was just his Greek or something. He's just really like,
So he wasn't from this country.
No, he was. He was rolling it out, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
It was his sales persona, right?
Oh, he was a painter, a house painter. So.
House painter?
Yeah, he already had a bad rep at that point, but then, yeah, he'd get kicked out of houses. So as long as he was on with the company, we had job security.
Gotcha.
Go
Yeah,
fix his work.
that's a weird. You think someone would coach him on that?
No, he wouldn't listen.
No, he was.
Okay, so let's go ahead and
Thank you.
before we get too far into, we're going to start self-defense in a moment. And we're going to just basically go with some fundamentals. And I want you to leave here with some knowledge, some tools, some things that you can do to help yourself feel a little bit more safe. But we talked about controlling that space around us, and there are 4 reasons why we want to control the space. And I'm sorry I didn't get to this before. But Rory Miller, and he is this absolute awesome guy in the industry. He's a prison guard, and if anyone knows, he does. And over his career, he's came up with these 4 true survival assault. Number 1, this is why it is important as ever to be able to control that space around us. and it's the 4 rules of violent assault. All violent assaults happen closer than most people believe. Why? Because that person who is assaulting you is going to make sure that they are in range. So when they throw that first punch, whatever it may be, it is going to land because they are going to make sure that they are in range. The next one is faster. Because they have chosen the time, because they have chosen the place to assault you, they are going to be able to assault you all out with no thought of defense because they don't think or you are not expecting it. The next one is more sudden. It's going to happen out of nowhere. It is not uncommon for people who have been assaulted. During the assault, while they're being assaulted, they're still asking themselves, why is this happening to me? Or what is happening to me? That's how fast it happens, and more power. Because they don't have to worry about defending themselves. They are going to be able to put everything that they have into striking you. This is why it is important to control that space around you. Now, observation, awareness is going to help us because if we cannot prevent someone from assaulting us, at least by using observation and awareness, we can give ourselves at least a moment to prepare. Now, when it comes to physical self-protection, these are always the interesting parts of the class or the presentation because for people it's always a physical solution. It's always asking me, well, can you show me how to do this to stop this? Well, can you show me how to do this? As far as the biggest thing that I can give you is your observation and awareness. Keep yourself out of those situations. I tell my students all the time, when it gets to a point where you're actively physically using your martial arts training, it's already gone too far. Up to that point, we've missed every indication that there is going to be trouble. We've blown by every anomaly, and now it gets to the point it's a crisis, it always has to be a physical solution. Now remember, we said that our number one goal in this is to do what? Create space. We're not in there to fight, we're not in there to mix it up, we're in there to create space. So my goal for you today is to take those 4 rules of violent assault and we want to flip them on their head. And those will become the 4 rules that we use to protect ourselves or to create space. So violent assaults happen closer, right? If someone cuts that distance down to you and is showing anomaly after anomaly after anomaly, they cut that distance down to you, you have a right to protect yourself. You're going to exercise that right. Now, what are we going to do? So let's talk about it. What is our plan of attack? What is your plan of attack? So, let's do it on me. You want to take away my ability to walk at my route of walking. What are you going to do?
Knees.
Thank you. Did everyone hear what he said? Knees. So what's the first thing we did? First thing we identify is what we want to do. We want to take away my ability to walk. We identified that. Then we identified the region, my leg, and then we identified the target, the knee. Now, what are we going to do to that knee?
Kick it.
Oh my gosh, you're so mean. You're going to kick me in my knee? Do you know what that's going to do? Do you know what that's going to do?
That's under deductible.
You kick someone in their knee, and if you kick them hard enough, there's a great chance that that person will never ever walk the same again. Do you care about that if there's someone threatening your safety? No, you really don't. So that's the process that we go through. So for the next 2 months, this is what we're doing. I'm on my phone, I'm reading, I'm eating, I'm practicing. People, there's nothing magic about this. You find out what you want to do. You find out how you have to do it, and then you just practice and practice and practice and practice. So, in here, what would be, someone pick a target on a person. First tell me what you want to do to this person who's cut down or into your space. What do you want to do to this person?
Make them stop breathing.
You want to make them what?
Stop breathing.
Stop breathing.
Gasp for air.
Okay, you want to make them gasp for air. Is that okay? Is everyone okay with making someone gasp for air? How do we do that?
Hit them in the throat.
Hit them in the throat. Okay, so we know what the target is. What does a tool look like that goes on the throat?
Ridge hand.
Let's see. Okay, you said, can I see?
They're all like this.
Okay. Okay, tiger's claw, okay. Okay, do we all want to attack someone in the throat? Is that agreed? We want to attack someone in the throat?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't want to attack someone.
Well, we got a consensus. We're going for the throat. Okay. 2 things.
But
This is
wouldn't that
easy.
make you get closer to them?
But this is when the distance is already cut down.
Okay,
So this
it's
is when
already
I've
done.
ignored all you want.
So we're already talking about no other options.
Well, this is talking about no other options, and this is how we create space. Remember, all these things are just for us to create space. So we're not going to chop him in the throat and then get on top of him. And no, we're going to chop him in the throat. We're going to stop him for a moment, give us time to grab our stuff. Not even grab our stuff. Get us time to be able to get out of there. So, what's most effective for hitting someone in the throat? For us today, it's going to be this, right? So when we get to the throat, are we just going to go here and stop at the throat? You're going to go through it. Now, we understand what that looks like. What does practice for that look like for you? How many of you, we talked about finding what you need to do and get yourself there. How many of you are willing to go home, stand in front of the mirror, and practice your strengths? It's as simple as that. We're going to pick one more thing. So we have the throat. I'm going to teach you something that I think it's important for everyone to know, and it's called a hammer fist strike. Because hammer fists are absolutely awesome for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's always recommended for protecting yourself that we use what we call gross motor strikes. See, a lot of people don't think that when things get crazy as far as physically, there's a lot going on. There's adrenaline going through your body. There's chemicals going through your body. You're dealing with the flee, fight, flight, all that stuff. You need gross motor movement. Things that are strong, things that we're not used to doing. All of this stuff that you see on television and that's TV. In real life, it's that. Now, hammer fist starts here and comes down. Now, where are the targets for a hammer fist?
Temple.
Nose. Temple, thank you. Temple is a target, but that's going to be what we call a driving hammer fist. That's a little bit more complex of the motion, but it's possible. If you can keep your adrenaline down, keep your heart rate down, that's definitely possible. But when everything is pumping through you, everyone knows how to do this, right? Targets are where? Nose. Nose. Anywhere else the hammer fist is good for? Excuse me? Well, let me see. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. That's a reverse hammer fist. That'll work. But the good thing about a hammer fist is a couple of things. Number one, well, let me ask you this. What is the problem when people start doing this? What's the problem there? Because that's most people, they want to make a fist and they want to punch where? For the face.
Get a broken knuckle.
Thank you. Okay, so I punch someone in the face and I get a broken knuckle. Then his partner comes from behind him. And then his partner comes from behind him. And I need to scramble to get my keys, or I need to get to my phone to call help, but I have a broken knuckle on my hand. How effective? How am I going to make that call? You want to keep yourself as intact as possible when you're defending yourself, and practice what we call damage control. Damage control is you being able to do damage to other people without doing damage to yourself. Yes, a punch to the face will work. Punch to the head will work, but there's a good chance that you're going to injure yourself in the process. And then you may need that hand to get your keys into the ignition to get away. So, we have hammer fist to the nose. We have also hammer fist to the collarbone. Clavicle or collarbone. I would say outside of those, the only other thing that I would work on is this instead of this. We talked about it. Why? You don't want to break anything on your hand. You're going to be able to do just as much damage, if not more, with one of these. Where's the target for this?
Nose upward.
Nose. All day long, all the way through. What about now? If it's a situation where you're not sure and you really don't want to cave someone's face in with a palm heel, but you still want to move them away from you. In the chest. Yeah, can we be a little bit more specific? Sternum. Right here in the solar plex. What is that going to do? It's going to take the breath away from them. It's going to give you that moment that you may need. Now, this moment may not be the moment for you to get away. It may be the moment that opens another moment for you to do what you need to get away. So if you carry a weapon and you feel that you may need to get to your weapon, that's going to give you just that time that you need to either get to your weapon and maybe to keep moving, or get to your weapon because you need to get through that person. How many of you carry a weapon? Okay, awesome. Now, how many of these weapons are not firearms? Okay. If you carry a weapon, your number one responsibility is, awesome. Absolutely.
Now, I had one of those
Awesome.
for years, and they finally took it at the court.
They took it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when you went through the, yeah.
They
Yeah.
made me go put it in the car. When
That means you go put it in the
It
car.
was-
right?
Yeah.
May I see that?
Those
I
are
bought
great.
it at the
Oh,
car
you
school,
know-
and I take it running with me. It has my home key on it.
Yeah, that hammer fist with that thing?
Yes. And that's what I was just
Yeah, I
about
need
to
to get a new
say.
one.
Hammer
That
fist
will
with it.
deter any jerk in an open house.
Now,
Yeah.
with something like this, only thing that you want to do, and I'm sure you probably do it, is anything that has an edge like this, make sure that you use something just to back this end up.
Yeah.
But there. Now, this is a very interesting strike. We don't teach this strike a lot, but with a hammer fist, this is absolutely awesome. So with this weapon in your hand, your target changes a little bit. Now, hammer fist, any blunt force strike, all blunt force strikes are designed to do what? Break bones. Hammer fist, blunt force strike, breaking bones. On the nose, bones. Anything like this with an edge or a tip, what is it for?
Pierce.
It's for breaking skin. So same area, different impact. So I'm still going to go for this area here with this motion, but instead of going for the clavicle, all of this right here. That's the reality of it.
I know.
That's the reality of it. Now,
You might need dry cleaning afterwards.
this is absolutely awesome because if you have something like this, and we were talking about not waiting to the last moment to respond. So in a situation where you're dealing with someone and you're not exactly sure, and maybe you've seen an anomaly, and you're just waiting, talking, continuing. I like these because these are easy to get in your hand, they're easy to conceal, and they're easy to step back. So at anomaly 2, as you're moving forward, at anomaly 3, this is something that I would suggest that everyone get. Something like this that they can put in their hand. And normally when you get this in your hand, you're not going to do this. You want to practice doing this. You want to be able to come out as straight as just, this is what you want to practice. Pick a target, pick a target, pick a target, and put it on that target. I would definitely recommend to everyone getting something like this and learning how to use it.
Where'd you get that? At the
What's that thing
karate school
called?
when my kids took karate.
They have pens on Amazon, tactical pens. that
Yes.
are basically solid aluminum, and they do the same thing.
Yep.
But you can actually use them to write.
Yep.
Oh.
I would,
Called
Like
a
$6.
Kubaton.
I would,
Kubaton, is that right?
it's a Kubaton. Yes, it is called a Kubaton. Or get yourself a tactical pen. Like this young man said, tactical pens are awesome. Okay. No, they're not
It's
that
like $5.
Yeah.
Plus, if
Not
somebody
expensive at all.
sees that
No.
you have a tactical pen, they're gonna be like, ooh.
And that's the
tactical
thing.
pen.
And that's it.
Just so they know that you know.
Yeah, I mean, you pull that out on your keychain, they're gonna see it.
Yeah.
But nobody says you can't have that in your hand when you're talking to them.
You should always have it. You should always have that in your hand, especially if the anomalies are there and they're adding up.
They
Things
just-
don't make sense.
Like they are.
What about
Right.
tasers?
Tasers, I'm gonna say any weapon that you have is good.
I have one now that
But
you
you
hold
can't
your
go
hand
away.
and you just, as a loop right around your finger,
Right.
you can just hold your hand and, you know.
Okay,
It's not
so
gonna kill somebody, but it might make them go, drop.
Well, it might just
Again,
be
it's just
mad, it
about
might not
creating
be
time to
enough.
get
Well, it
away.
might anymore.
In a real situation, you just want to create that distance and then you get away.
Get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's a double-edged?
I want us to depend
At
somewhere.
And it's-
195 pounds, I'm still gonna do that.
Call it a double entendre. I don't know if it's an entendre or
Double-edged
not.
sword.
What's the double edge on weapons?
You have
They
to get,
can
sometimes you
use
have to get
against
closer to
you.
get to
You gotta get closer, but if you're not, the double edge is someone
not
taking
here.
your weapon from you.
Yeah,
and being
yeah.
able to use it.
That's what worries me with having
Yeah.
a gun, because anything could go wrong.
Anything could go wrong, but that's the general rule for anything that you carry on yourself. Learn how to use it. Do not take it out of the house until you are proficient in using it, because it can get taken from you and it can get used on you. Anything else? And normally we get into that situation where, we look at the martial arts and we see the stances and we see this. I don't do all that in these workshops because that's not going to help you. I will never put you in a stance and say, okay, yes.
So, I know that a guy is going to be able to hammer another guy.
Uh-huh.
Like, if I start doing that, I have no upper body strength. How am I going to even hurt somebody by doing that?
That's why you
Am I
have
just going to piss him off? Or
No,
is this gonna,
but we
like,
talked about,
you
and
know?
this, okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. We have to be proactive. We have to do as much as we can to create and control the situation. That means you recognizing what your limits are, finding where you are strong, and emphasizing those strengths. So that means you getting a weapon. And the only thing that you can do is, that's what we mean. It's about adapting personally for you the best option of getting you out of that situation. I'm glad you mentioned that because, like I said, a lot of people look at it as a physical thing when they aren't physically able to do what it is that they want to do. That's why you have to adapt it for yourself, whatever it is. Now, you might go home and practice kicking someone in the knee.
I can do that.
I mean,
Down for that one.
now, you might go home and practice kicking someone in the knee. Now, let me just show you really fast. If you are going to practice kicking someone in the knee, a couple things that you want to do. You always want to have at least 2 crane stances in every kick. And this is a crane stance. So, a good crane stance is when you're practicing, we start here, and it's just like a gate opener. Just like this. If I had a cup of water, I'd want to place it right here on my leg, and I just want to do this. And that's it. So if you have to go to kick someone in the knee, you're not going to look down in the knee and go. You're going to look them right in the face because you've practiced it a million times. It's just a matter of choosing what you feel works best for you. Practice it. Practice it.
Everybody's
Practice it. Everyone is different. Everyone has different abilities. Everyone has different levels. Everyone has different tolerances. Practice it. Practice it. Practice it. On this feedback form, there is my contact information. Feel free, if you have any questions, either contact me via email, go to my website, anything, contact me, and if I can help you in any other way, I will be happy to do that. Real fast. Any questions?
What about mace?
Mace. I'm going to say the same thing for every weapon. As long as you know how to use it.
Problem
It's in
with
my hand,
mace
that's
is
just
you
part of
gotta
it.
get comfortable with it. 'Cause, like, it affects everything.
It goes in the air and you
Like
get in it.
everything.
Yeah, and I've never used
Your
it.
neighbor, the
I think about,
neighbors
like,
will feel it
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you use mace.
And that's the one thing about aerosols, depending on the conditions outside, you pull that out, it blows, but then it blows right back in your face.
Back in your face.
Like,
I like tasers. Tasers aren't bad. I mean,
Nope.
You have to have a certain, like, I looked online and some have 18,000, whatever it is.
yeah,
How do
some
you
are
know?
meant
I
for
don't
law enforcement and for dealing with people that are high on drugs. But that's besides not what you.
You just
are
want
gonna
something
do.
to make them
You just want
stop.
separation.
And with a taser, you have to be careful with tasers and pretty much anything that you deploy, but especially tasers, because it takes a certain arc. And if you don't get the right arc with tasers, what's going to happen is you're going to shoot someone with a taser. They're going to do this. They're going to do that.
Really bad.
And then they're back on top.
What if they're touching you and you tase them, then you get
You
tased
get
too?
I don't.
I would imagine so.
But you might get one.
I got hit with one that wasn't high voltage at all, and it was like that. You put a 9-volt battery in your tongue. It was a cheap one.
Okay.
When we were kids, we used to run around with them, have taser wars, right? You run around with like a, so they're not.
Yeah, the cheap ones.
Now, unless we have any questions, people, I wanted to get you out of here early, and I think I did a good job. But before that, it's important to me to make sure that I've addressed any concerns, any questions.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Oh, did everyone fill out their feedback form?
Yep, doing it now.
Yeah. Working on it.
You were really easy to work with. I tried it. I tried to be on top of my stuff and easy to work with. Yes, they offered me a job.
At the HP? Yeah.
Of course they
I've tried everything. At one point I was managing 55 escrows there.
They have great marketing
I'm
machines.
sure they'll be able to.
They have great marketing machines. Yeah, they weren't.
Well, and when
But there were just some things that I felt a little bit better. But that wasn't your decision, that's the other group's job.
Right now, she's like, yeah, I know.
Well, no, I've been seeing she's like
You see my loan disclosure, is there any reason why I shouldn't sign these and send them back?
but.
What do you want me to say? No, don't sign them.
Of course. So I just like not. So,
It was a house at Cape Creek, just south of the 101. And it was a little old lady selling it. We had some deferred maintenance issues, but I got the gal who was buying it, was a first time home buyer, a much better house than what she considered was probably the best.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And she's not happy with the home, but I bet she will in the end. That's what I told her. Oh, get out of the day.
They were first.
Yeah, because you got more house than you would. She was looking at something built in the 70s that was 2-story. I'm like,
Thank you so much.
we lived by this place for years. And I got to her around some roof issue and it's amazing. But I've been dealing with a lot of deferred maintenance.